Thank you all for coming, and I don't think I can really say thank you enough to people for showing up here on a Sunday afternoon to listen to poetry. Then we did a poetry and writing workshop this morning on words and work, and I see some of you who are in the workshop are here. And I really, when I look around the room and I see people writing and putting their heads down and pouring their thoughts onto paper on a Sunday morning, it really, I've never gotten over sort of the joy of that and the appreciation for that. And I've never actually gotten over when I come to a place like to be with you here today, this afternoon. Just, I know you could be so many other places and working or being with your families, but you're here. And there's something really beautiful in that, so I thank you for coming out. Thank you to Arabez for inviting me, and to Anne, the other volunteer, and Joe, the billet, who's over there, sending me lots of calm goodness. And so thank you, really a lot of appreciation. And I remember when the invitation to come to Words Aloud came in the email, and I think my publisher said, you know, they're looking for a woman poet to balance things out. And I think they asked every single woman and poet in the province of Ontario, and they were all busy. So you got me. Okay, and that's props to my grade 11 English teacher who said, always open with a joke. And, I see Maureen is here, and I just met her yesterday in the grocery store, and there's Michael and Gabriella, so come on in. Hi, I haven't started. Hi. And now's a good time, since the publisher is here, to mention my book, which I'm here to read from Sword Dance. So I'll be reading from Sword Dance, and which was published, just published, my first book of poetry, even though I've been writing for a very long time. Thank you to Exile for publishing this. And to those publishers who rejected it, I know who you are. No, Irish blessings. Oh, just joking. So, but I'm also, and I was looking in the promotion for the festival. I noticed that I was being promoted as an avant-garde eco-poet. And so I thought I should write some avant-garde eco-poems. So that's what I did. So I put together a little chapbook, and I'll just read a few poems from that, and then I'll read from Sword Dance after. So this is this little chapbook I put together, and I was recently in Kenya, and so this is just some poems called The Hill, poems from Kenya, and this will be available to buy after, along with Sword Dance, and the proceeds from this will go to buy picture books for children in an elementary school in an IDP camp in Kenya, where I'm going back to teach again in January. So I hope you enjoy these avant-garde eco-poems. And I typed these on my Brother Charger typewriter. And the Brother Charger is like a very clunky, you've got to be like really in shape to use it because you type. And I ordered a blue typewriter ribbon from Minneapolis. And so I've got this like blue ink. What do they want? I ask the driver, Nairobi to Molo. Carrot sellers race over speed bumps, close in on car windows, hold up orange wares, boiled bananas, maize. Even a no brings a smile. Surprise, you look them in the eyes. Hope, says the driver, Nairobi to Molo. Past Naivasha, the road leaves the road, the car canoes up and down potholes, stuffed matatus, I have to make sure you hear that word, stuffed matatus, fly past, doors open, passengers hang mid-air, a few less shillings bus fare. Police stand by, pass time, take money, hand out receipts. For what? I ask. The driver laughs. The smart ones call ahead. At the edge of the road, women carry 100-pound sacks on 80-year-old backs. Silent zebras, 2 by 2, remove what's caught in the other's manes. Black and white, the design moves you. Warriors stare long into the distance, stood still so long they turned into statues. You look and hope to see them move, but they never do. Giraffes on the horizon look for long gone treetops. Dry, 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 kind of dry that gets in your eyes. Smoke in your throat, the hill takes hope. Dry, dry, still every tree a sign, life, a leaf, a branch, a trunk. Nearby someone slashes, cuts weeds, hopes for growth. A small prayer house and a thatched roof and a door someone put there was also a thought until a hand opened. Mazungo, 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 sweetie. Children chase me shoeless through fields of maize. Mazungo, Mazungo, sweetie. I turn, they stop, we circle, trade names. They crouch low, wait. What will the Mazungo do today? I teach them the bro handshake. They all want in. Palms up, skins rub, shake, tug, fist bump. One boy counts my fingers. 5. One asks if the white comes off. They did. They hold their breath. What will the Mazungo say? Some days. Oh yeah, that's not this lady. Women and children gather like clouds at the water tank. One rests the container she carries on her head, holds out her hand. Habari, thank you. My name is Margaret, Mama Moses. She wears a dashing dress, flying colors, asks my name and origin. Veronica, Canada. I'm going to the hill. God bless you, she says. Yeah, God bless you, I say. Yes, she says, because we are life. She punches the air, picks up the water, and points to the sky. This one's at the school, a curled up poster shows the English alphabet. No blackboard, no books. They sit packed tight on benches, jostle for an inch to write or read at the railing. Some sit sideways. The room, a shed, is on a hill. All day they slide. They learn on a steep slope. Before I go into the grade 2 room, I pull up a fluffy dandelion weed ball by the door, memory of Canadian childhood. The kids stare. A ghost is here. Make a wish, I say. Silence. What is a wish? Every child in the circle blows air at the dandelion weed. Some have a little, some have a lot. The last seed clings. A small boy gets the last turn, blows away the seed. The class claps. Oh, everyone's wish just came true. I place the empty stem in his empty hand. The boy looks at the floor. Somewhere a new flower begins, or will. That is a wish. So that was that. Thank you. You're a really, really nice audience. Nice to read to. So, okay, good, yeah. 2 thirds, okay. Oh, I just opened the book and I saw it like, end here. So it's like, okay, see. Michael is here, so I will also say I really, really love the cover of my book, and I love everything. I love the way it was produced. I love the way it was made. I love the way it was designed. I love it. It's a really good book, and I think you should buy a lot. I think you should buy a lot today. In fact, it would be great if you didn't have to take any home with them. Like, it would be great if we could just travel light, you know? Okay, so this book, there's a lot of death in this book. There's a lot of death in this book, and I always say I'm Irish, so it's a comedy. Uncle Tom lies in St. Paul's emergency, pacemaker, jumping like a sockeye salmon while he teaches 2 nurses 4 verses of Danny Boy. They release him, and by the time the taxi pulls away, 8 nurses stand outside waving to him. He says Cordova Street's the best home he ever had. 3 square meals, a radio, and people who listen to him sing. Hank Williams, lawyers, hockey players, priests, and shrinks. My mother says, he doesn't see the neighborhood, he just looks at the flowers. He spends his day at the courthouse, gets free coffee from the court coffee lady, who never in her life gave anything away for free. But Tom has a way about him. He has a way. He was in fact up to 3 free coffees a day, overdid it a bit, and the coffee lady had to say, "Hey, Tom, I didn't mean it quite like that." Said, I didn't mean 3 or 4 free coffees a day, no. And he looks up at her and he says, "You're right, mother, from now on it's only 1. By the time McSorley's hockey trial hit, he was back up to 3. And that day, court packed, standing room only, the guard said to Tom, "Okay, big guy, go on in." And Tom looked around and said, "Hey, big guy, who's he talking to?" And the way Canadian says things, Tom just loved it. People in line looked at Tom, who wasn't tall, and said, "Hey, why does he get in?" And the guard stared back and said, "Because he's one of the family." And Tom went right in. And later, Tom was interviewed on CBC about the trial from an old-timer's point of view, except they got Tom who looked straight into the lens with his blue eyes and snowy white hair, and standing there with his free coffee, he said, "It was too hard to see on TV. You really couldn't get a good angle on things." The reporter told Tom to walk into the sunset. Walk into the sunset. An old-timer shot to close the show. Folks, there goes the old-timer walking into the distance and walking slow. But you see Tom, camera rolling, live TV, walks slower than they wanted him to. Behind him, the camera rolled, and the reporter's voice slowed and tried to keep pace with Tom, walking slow. He was trying to drag it out a wee bit, Folks, there goes the old-timer walking. Tom walked slower than slow, and by the time he pressed the button to cross the street, they liked Tom old, but not so slow. Now, Tom has a way of walking slow, not like he was before. The night he staggered in circles around the backyard drunk, shouting, "I'm a fucking Scot! I'm a fucking Scot!" Okay. Before that, he made everyone laugh, found cigarettes in his ears, he made coins disappear, and then when Granda died, he handed in his gloves at the bus mechanic depot, and he walked, and he did not stop, all the way to New Westminster. They gave him electric shock. I did not care what the neighbors thought. Back in Glasgow, he might have been the one with a football kick called the International, but in Canada, he did magic tricks alone on the living room love seat. I honestly feel like some of you know Tom, or maybe you have some Toms in your family, or maybe you are your Tom yourself. So maybe we all got some of Tom in us. Okay. Luxury. I got hours and hours. I need to tell you, you're just gonna be looking at me and be like, okay, I'll take full advantage here then. Well, someone said too, like it is one of my fellow writers said, is it is a good long time to read, so you can really introduce a work, and so let's do it. Okay, are you with me? All right. There's more jokes in this one too to keep you awake. Okay. Excuse me to those experiencing hair loss in the audience. The father always worked in jobs where he wore a hat and a uniform. Tram driver, machine man, milk delivery, ice cream sales, but he wouldn't wear a hat. He refused because he said, men that wore hats lost their hair. He said, did you ever notice that men with no hair, they always wear hats? I'm telling you, it's their hats. Stay away from those hats. A head needs hair, needs to blow in the breeze. The father was always particular about himself. He would go on about hats, hair, shoes, women in wains looking on, but over there's a way of looking at men. Mithers wring their hands, run after the fathers with trays of chips, always running out and in. The fathers like customers who never leave. Mithers either working or waiting on the white neck shift, always looking after things, every dish, dog, floor, and father. But if things didn't suit the father, he'd say so. And after Willie went to war, everyone was running after him. He'd say, "Mither, more tea. There's a hole in me sock. Mither." And if she was too long, he'd start coughing the whiff of mustard gas he got in the war. "Mither, where's my sweet? Button missing, mither." Running in circles, pipe, slipper, neats. No one neeps. No one makes a peep. The mither putting a blanket on his knees. "There you are, go, father. There you are, noo." And Gallagher heard it all from upstairs, the mither running after the father, and one day she thought no more blather. Standing upstairs in tap dance shoes, she knew a few moves, and she walked down the stairs, made every step count, just like Fred Astaire. And everyone was there. Tommy poured tea, Lizzie changed the radio, Mither sliced a jam roll, the father in his chair in a room thick with the smell of chips and grease, smoke rising to the ceiling, dust falling, and from the staircase Gallagher looked right at him and said, "Da, don't shout at my mither again." And Tom looked from behind the teapot, and the mither held the knife in midair, and the fact she said "don't" and not "donne" made everyone stop and stare. And the father, his mouth dropped, his gums gaped, and the radio went on, and the tea got poured, and the cake was cut, and back upstairs, Gallagher thought, how small the living room is, and I never noticed that before. But from then on, the father didn't shout, and everyone could hear Gallagher's feet upstairs tapping up there. Ta-ta, ta-ta. Glasgow, Scotland, I crept in. The father's father, Dick, was over 6 feet tall, worked 14 years in a mine shaft with a clearance of 3 feet. When he laughed, he threw his head back. They all went to the mines, Tommy, Willie, Dick. For a while, the father worked at John Brown shipyards, building the Queen ships. He had the top mechanical job. But then someone brought in a relative for less money, and someone said it was never good to have the top mechanical job. The father ended up howking in the mines, taking the coal out. Below ground, the father's father was tall. He was a top man. And when Dick went to the mines, he knew by instinct where solid ground went weak, and they said he had a gift for seams. There were explosions and gas leaks, and men disappeared. People looked, and no one found anyone. The wives would be waiting outside on a paycheck. Dick said in the mine it was one thing after another. For Willie, it all struck deep. He took pride in it, and someone said, "Say what you like about the father. He always looked the part, pure statesman." And though he worked in the shipyards and in the mines, he knew something was better, was out there waiting for him. And tall, he was tall. He had that long, straight nose and black hair. And when he wasn't underground, he carried a cane, always polishing his tony red shoes. During the war, the English officers noticed the father. They saw something in him. One morning on the front lines, the general called him into his tent and said, in proper English, even away out there, said, "Tubbin, would you go out and describe the sky to me?" Oh, sorry. He said, "Tubbin, would you like to be my Batman?" And the father stood before the general, no idea what a Batman was, so the father said, "Yes, sir." It turned out a Batman was the soldier who pressed the general's clothes and ran errands to the father. It was an honor, top job. He said, "Did you ever notice how they always give the top job to the Scots and the Irish? Because the English, they see something in us, something important, something of value." Every morning the general would come in and say, "Tubbin, go out and describe the sky to me." And the father would say, "Yes, sir," and wonder, how would you describe the sky? So every day the father went out, ducked shells, ran through trenches, looked up at the sky, and returned with the same answer, "Mostly grey, sir." One thing you can say for the father, he always had an answer to things, always a scheme on the go, a way out, a plan. Before the war, he learned from an Italian neighbor how to make ice cream, even leased a machine, sold ice cream in the street. It tasted good. It tasted good until he went out on his own. Instead of sugar, he used salt, of course. And outside the football park, people were dropping their cones all the way up and down the sidewalk. And someone else was selling ice cream further along, and someone heard someone say, "Hey, don't go to that one, go to the one further down." Still the father, he stayed there all night, and everyone said, "Say what you like." In the end, the father got rid of it all. It was better when the war started. The father got a solid job, and the family moved to a brand new housing scheme. First time with indoor plumbing. No more door at the end of the lane. No more chanty po. A separate dining room, a good home. You had to know someone to get in. On moving day, Tom and two other fellas were moving the piano up the street, but the other fella was doing all the work, and there's Tom, his hand was resting on the piano, and he said he was just there for moral support. And the whole time the mither was in the hospital with pneumonia, it was the move she couldn't wait for. All they years dreaming of good lighting, indoor toilets. So Gallagher was in charge, cooking dinners, doing the washing, and women across the road offered to help. They had washing machines, but Gallagher just took out the old washboard and scrubbed. She loved to scrub, washing clothes, floors were the best, working alone, singing, up to her elbows in brushes and suds. She said, "A machine just isn't the same." One of the women said she had a son named Patrick, and Gallagher just kept scrubbing. And the mither returned from hospital and knew life was better, even good, though neighbors still keeked out the curtains. And Patrick's mither told the mither that Patrick had a notion of Gallagher. And Patrick, he wasn't tall, but he wasn't wee either. Lovely clothes, nice manners, always coming over. Except whenever he came over, there was the father giving him a staring look, not speaking, poor fella. The father's family, they straight noses that bit, where someone's still mad about a tray of sandwiches offered too late, 20 years ago. Sandwiches. That look was meant to say, sandwiches, I won't forget they sandwiches. I think some of you have some of these people in your family. They're like, a matter of pride, the father would say. Well, the mither said, "Ach no, I'm not here of bread and butter." And the father said, "A young man mooching about here, it won't do." And all the while, the mither knew life was good up on a hill with a water view of sorts. Their ship came in. Months passed. Patrick's older sister married someone named Willie, and since Gallagher wasn't allowed to go out with Patrick, and the mither told Gallagher, just meet with all three. And soon the four were best friends. And with Patrick and his sister and Willie coming over, and with working windows and indoor toilets and, a light switch, it was just like heaven. The mither said, until the father stepped in. And, "Annie," he says one day, "we're leaving." "No." The mither says, "I'm no leaving." "Annie, were I leaving?" "No, I'm no going." "Aye, we're going." "I'm no going." "Annie, we're going." "No, I'm no going." "Annie, I'm no going." "Annie," he says, "we're going to England." I had a letter from my sister Lizzie asking us to go away doing there, and there's a scheme to raise pigs. A real plan. "Och no," said the mither. "Och aye," said the father. "Och no," says the mither. "And this one's a winner." The mither thought, "Oh God, no, not another scheme." And Tom's latest one was working for the English in the north of Scotland, picking seaweed. It was top secret. And they said, "Great medicine for the troops, just great." After the war, they found out it was the wrong seaweed. And someone said, "It's a good thing they didn't kill off the whole army. You didn't need the Germans." Oh, they were bad. But there was something to the English. There was always something to the English, always so confident, even without a plan. They knew how to carry themselves, all smooth. And while the letters went back and forth between Lizzie and Willie about the pigs, it started to look good. But the mither, leaving that nice kitchen, never mind, the toilet bowl, that good life didn't last long, the mither knew. It was time to leave Scotland. And when the last day arrived, everything packed and ready to go, the father sat on the mither's kitchen chair, wondering if it was the right move. Oh. They couldn't believe it. He might as well have been pulling his teeth out. The mither said, "Leave your father alone now. He's deep in thought." But he was thinking, what he was thinking, he couldn't say. He couldn't say because all the while he had the family thinking this was it, about to hit it, big time, going to England, new scheme, pigs. He was thinking about Tom, Dick, and Harry away over there, murdered or open like a soup tin. The old ghost, look what happened when you left, look what happened when you stick your foot out. And all the while he sat on the mither's chair, fancy dressed in his two-tone shoes, red and black, all ready for England, beside the dripping sink. And all the father could think was, I'm a fucking Scot, over and over again. So, I'm finished. Thank you.